Hello everyone. In the module of sports psychology, today we will start a lecture on integrating homeopathic therapeutics in sports psychology, a holistic approach to athlete well-being and performance. My name is Dr. Ankur Shukla and I'll be conducting the lecture today. First, we'll have a brief overview of lecture topics. We'll start with identifying the psychological needs of an athlete. Then we'll look into the topic of integrating homeopathy. Then we'll look into management and medicines. And finally, we will conclude with summary followed by MCQs. First, let's start with identifying the psychological needs of an athlete. It can be done through an intake interview. Now, what is the definition or terminology of an intake interview? It is also known as assessment interviews. It can also be known as initial interviews or first contact meeting, as explained by Somers and Flanagan in 2016. Not necessarily the first meeting between the physician and athlete, but the first structured discussion on psychological needs is done here. What is the process of the intake interview? The physician simply asks series of questions to gather insights. He actively listens to the athlete's response and concerns, aims to gain a deeper understanding of the athlete's need and psychological challenges. And what we get out of it, what is the outcome of this interview? It helps in building rapport between the physician and athlete. It forms the basis for individualized training and psychological support for the athlete. And it facilitates collaborative problem solving and goal setting. The purpose of the intake interview is coaches have limited time for individual discussions with athletes. Therefore, the intake interview provides a longer conversation opportunity. It assesses how receptive an athlete is to psychological support. Athletes usually seek psychological discussions when facing disruption, example, technique changes, performance issues, etc. The primary goal of intake interview can be summed up by the mnemonic IDRO. IDRO means we have to first identify the source of athlete's distress. Then we have to determine whether the coach's help is sufficient or a referral is needed. If beyond the coach's expertise, then they can refer the athlete to a specialist, and if within their competency, they can offer strategies for improvement. So, the primary goal can be identify, determine, refer or offer. Now, we will look into Taylor's and Schneider's interview guide given in 1992, which was originally developed for sports psychologists interviewing athletes. It can also be used by coaches. Interview focus areas. There are 5 major focus areas in this interview guide. First is understanding the problem, that is identifying the core issue. Then comes building a detailed understanding, that is exploring the problems further. Then comes influences and consequences, factors affecting the problem and its impact. Then it is followed by changes before the problem started, recognizing early signs of the problem. And then finally, important life events, that is personal experience that may contribute to that particular problem. First point, that is understanding the issue causing distress. Importance of athlete's perspective is of high value, as a coach must first understand the problem from the athlete's point of view before offering the help. Taylor and Schneider developed some questions which can be used here, like describe your problem. It helps the athlete articulate their concerns. Then the next question can be, how frequently does it occur? Identifies the pattern and severity of the problem. Then how or where did it happen? It determines possible triggers or initial causes of the problem. Then we can ask, how long has it been going on? It assesses duration and persistence. Then we can ask, where and when does it occur the most, recognizes situational factors that are involved with the problem, and finally, what do you think causes it, encourages athletes' self-reflection on potential reasons behind the problem. Then comes the next section, that is building a more detailed understanding. Purpose of this stage is, after identifying the problem, the coach should ask deeper questions to gather more information. Allow the athlete to describe experiences in detail and reflect on patterns. Taylor and Schneider have also suggested some questions here that can be describe a situation when the problem occurred. It helps the coach to understand real life examples. Then come, what's this the first time it ever happened? Identifies if the issue is reoccurring or a one-time event. Then comes the question, when does it normally occur? Is there a consistent pattern behind the problem? Recognizes specific triggers and trends. What things are happening when the problem is at its worst? Identifies contributing factors that intensify the issue, that aggravates the issue. What things are happening when the problem is at its best? It highlights conditions that improve the situation or ameliorates the situation, ameliorates the problem. Then comes the topic of influence and consequences. What were the consequences and what influence gave that consequences? So the purpose of this stage is, the coach should gather information on external and internal influences affecting the problem and then understand the consequences. It helps assess the impact on the athlete and others. The question can be divided into social influences, that is, who was around you when the situation occurred and what were they doing. It identifies external social factors that might have contributed. Then come personal influences. Now we have to ask, what were you thinking when the incident occurred? It explores the athlete's mindset during the event and how were you feeling when it happened. Helps identify emotional responses and triggers. How did you behave? Examines action and reactions in response to the problem. Now we will look at the consequences part of it. What happened after the problem occurred? Provides insight into the immediate aftermath and possible escalation. How did others react to it? Highlights external feedback and social responses. After completing these set of questions, we come to changes prior to problem starting, to identify potential factors contributing to a problem. Taylor and Schneider recommended assessing changes in physical, mental, technical, and equipment related aspects. Physician can use the following questions to explore these areas. The first question set can be of physical factors, that is, training quality and quantity. Assess any variation in intensity, duration, or type of training before the issue arose. Then comes the factor of illness, injury, or fatigue. Identify any health related concerns, example recent illnesses, injuries, or exhaustion before the problem started. Then comes the second aspect, that is mental factors. Mental state before the problem. Evaluate the athlete's overall mental well-being leading up to the issue. And then comes the confidence and anxiety levels. It determines whether there were changes in confidence, anxiety, or stress levels before the problem emerged. The third subsection is of technical factors. It has adjustment in techniques. And the fourth is equipment factors. It has changes in equipment. The adjustment in technique identifies any modification made to the execution of skills or movements before the issue arose. And the changes in equipment assess whether there were any alteration in gear, footwear, or other equipment that could have contributed to the problem. Final section comes of exploring important life events. Sometimes changes in an athlete's physical or mental state, technical issues, or equipment may not fully explain the problem. Then in such cases, personal life events could play a significant role in identifying the problem. Physician can explore this by asking the following questions. First, identifying significant life events. Reflection on key events. Ask the athlete to describe important life events that have shaped them. Then we get assessing timing. Identify whether any major life event occurred close to the onset of the problem or not, because it can be the most related one. Then come external life influences, impact of non-sporting events. Explore if any personal experiences unrelated to the sports he is playing, example work, studies or health issues coincided with that problem. Family, friends and relationships. Assess whether any significant change was found in relationships, example family issues, friendships, breakup could have influenced their mental or emotional state. Then we will look at integration of this concept of intake interview that is mainly found in sports psychology with the concept of case taking in homeopathy. By integrating our case taking skills and techniques designed to capture the unique essence of an individual with the investigative approach proposed by Taylor and Snyder, we can construct a truly holistic and individualized totality. This enriched totality not only encapsulates the physical, mental, technical and external life influences shaping the individual, but also refines our understanding of their dynamic states. In homeopathy, the art of prescription lies in perceiving the totality that best defines the individual in their entirety. When the totality is carefully crafted, weaving together the nuanced threads of subjective experience, objective changes and circumstantial influences, it serves as the foundation for precise